You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching The Meta Show.
What's up, everyone, guys? Welcome back to the Meta Show. It's Saturday. We have an awesome guest today. We have Carneros, leader of the Bastion. You have myself, TheMittani, and my Skype is not showing you.
Oh my! Oh god! Well, I can see. I can watch.
We can see me. Like it's like Lazception here. Like it's.
Oh my! Wow! There's no me. You get no red shirt. You get nothing. I even got all gussied up today with a new flavor of red. That's a lie, actually. Some of you have seen it before, but it's a different red shirt from last time, and none of you can see it. All you get to see is just there we go. There's me.
It's fixed. It's fixed. We got it, boys. We got it.
Yeah, so we got this. Professionals here. Never fear.
Yeah. So quick shout out to Tycho. And thank you so much for the sub. Make sure you get some beer looks in the chat from our subs. To commiserate him joining the Hypno Kitten.
And also, as usual, Zell wants us to notice him. So Zell, actually, he's asking for Carneros to notice him, and Carneros isn't going to be on until the midway mark. But he is giggling because I can see him. We have this whole Skype setup now where, we can look at each other's faces on the show, and he's muted, waiting for his moment to come in and join the show at the halfway mark. But that will have to wait. But I'm sure that he has noticed you, Zell, because I can watch him cracking up and nodding here. Excellent.
But we get quite a bit of EVE news to talk about today. I know, like, in the past 3 weeks or so, we've been lots of fights and stuff. So we're going to get into that in just a little bit, guys. A reminder: we are still doing our giveaways in the middle of the stream. So right before we bring in Carneros, we'll be doing the 3 pirate rookie ship codes giveaways. So make sure you're following this chat or the stream. If you're not following the stream, you cannot win. So
no follow, no victory. That's
exactly. So I know before we wanted to jump into the Nullsec stuff, we want to talk a little about TMC rebranding.
Yes, we do. So one of the things that we talked about a couple of weeks ago on the Meta Show was we were showing some intro navbar comps that our Eve desk editor, Matterall, had come up with, and he's a fantastic graphic designer who actually has real-world experience. He used to do like movie posters for the film industry. So, the navbar comps were great. And as you guys know, we're basically taking TMC from trying to be space CNN into being basically the voice of the Imperium, because being in the middle is kind of annoying. Nobody really likes it. And we have better comps anyway. So go ahead and take a look at this and give us your feedback in chat. We've been showing the boys this for a bit now. I think on Twitch right now it looks a little bit more gray than blue, but it is actually sort of a light shade of blue depending upon how it looks. So that's kind of where we're looking to go with the look and feel of the site. The icons in the top right on the nav bar are not set in stone. It's more about the Black Eagle and the sort of overall aesthetic, I guess you'd say. So hopefully people like that. And if people... Yeah, somebody says, I prefer the, Azran Argent says, I prefer the eagle that's giving everybody the finger. We're thinking about doing that. One of the ideas is sort of a gimmick to have like a special switch that we can flick on and off if our coders can pull it off. Is to have when you mouse over or click on the eagle shifts into Condiing, because Condi is an emote on somethingawful.com. We're going to explain the joke, where it's just 2 middle fingers, which is also the alliance ticker of Goonswarm Federation is Condi. And so the idea is if you click on the eagle during a special time, the eagle, its wings pop up 2 additional middle fingers and flicks everybody off. And of course, you can't actually see me flicking off the camera and demonstrating this because the entire screen is covered over by the thing. This is a shirt change. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this out of the way such that I can go back to flicking everybody off. But,
it sounds a lot like PL's killboard. If PL loses like a lot of stuff and they whelp something, and then their killboard banner changes to like
to Pathetic Legion.
Yeah,
with all the ponies on it. But yes, just to demonstrate what Condi looks like for those of you who, now that you can see me, now that that is out of the way, this is what Condi looks like. And so the idea with the eagle is up at the top, you mouse over and it goes like that. So we actually have a lot of hilarious things to talk about involving PL once we get to Nullsec. So basically, just to wrap up stuff with TMC, We are looking for feedback on that in general, but we are, as we've said, sort of refocusing the site on being the voice of the Imperium. It is what it is. We're done with being Space CNN. And all the other news websites are the voice of their alliances or coalitions anyway, so screw it. We're a little bit late to the party, but...
Before we jump into Nullsec, guys, I want to give a quick shout-out to Mr. Trump with $5. Make Eve great again. And then Space Mexican with 10. Just want to say I miss that beard and that red shirt. Please blow me a kiss, Mittani and Laz together.
There you go. Thank you. So one last thing before we get to Nullsec is, as part of the rebrand, we are looking for... it's really hard to find coders and developers who have time and resources available to work, but TMC is recruiting. We are interested in getting particularly front-end developers. If you know your way around CSS, HTML, reach out to us via email or the Contact Us form on the website. Also, as usual, Drupal developers are in great demand. So if you can Drupal, if you can do front-end, we want to hear from you, and we will make it rain for you in terms of space bucks in order to see what you can pull off. So we'd love to hear from you. And now it is time for the Nullsec Power Hour, which is not actually a power hour.
We can make it a power hour.
We can make it a power hour if there's enough things to go.
Boom. So shifting it to guys, I guess recently it's funny because we have Carneros here in Skype with us as well. What was it last week? Bastion lost a Ragnarok and a Nyx on the stream, and then this week FCon loses a Ragnarok and a Nyx. So it's like I guess next week it's what, TNT, or is it Lawn, or maybe GSF proper?
I think it's Goonswarms. I think we're long overdue for a major whelp. So the whelp gods have been fed quite well. It's been kind of an interesting thing. So basically, what has happened in Eve is now we're seeing a lot of dead supercarriers, a lot of Titans.
It was CO2. Sorry, it was CO2. My bad, Bastion. My bad.
It was the guy in question he used to be in the Bastion, thus the confusion. That guy went over from Bastion to the CO2, and then he lost that Titan on a screwed up drive-by, which is a common fate. This time around, the loss for FCon was actually a convoy that got intercepted, and I think that it was basically like 600 people came through a wormhole from Thera to gank the crap out of it. They lost a Titan, they lost a Nyx, and they lost a handful of carriers to go along with it in their home system of BKG. Now, what's notable about this is not just the fact that a convoy got ambushed, but what we're seeing in EVE in general is a system before Phoebe. The way that blocks would project power and the way that Rocket X and PL would hunt their prey was using a vast Sinonet, right? And now what's happened today is that most of the blocks have shifted over to using wormhole-based systems. Yeah. And so PL has probably the most developed, and I think they call it Fury Road is the name that they have for, and guys, correct me in chat if I'm wrong here, but they have Fury Road. Every day they have some very dedicated people who get out there and they look for all the connections they can to find, prey, and hunt. And then they sit there and they wait for somebody to do something dumb with their supercaps. And, from using JSpace, you can get into K-Space and wreak unholy havoc. And I think that this is the way of the future. And if people haven't figured it out yet, you're going to see more and more of that from alliances looking to gank people everywhere. And well played to PL. And they also had, I think, NC Dot along for the ride and the usual suspects. But,
it was like they get there pretty quickly, and just because of the wormholes. And I think Rocket was here. Rocket's here. It's Fury Road is correct. He just said
Fury Road is correct. Yeah. Rocket is fantastic at this. Like, this is, it's sort of a sanity check. And I mean, it's tough because you notice if you look at the battle report for the FCon loss, it was very clearly it was a convoy fleet. And that's one of the dangers about doing a convoy fleet whenever there's a super capital. I mean, Goonswarm actually lost, I think we lost like 2 Titans and 4 supercarriers on a shitty convoy fleet coming from the south when we were abandoning the southwest because we didn't guard it properly. And whenever you see like pots and pans defenses, you know that that's what happened. So well played. Good wake up call for us.
And speaking of PL and NC Dot, actually, they actually had a really massive fight today. Like, it was over 1,000 people on local. We haven't seen a fight like that in quite some time, especially with the Imperium. The Imperium wasn't even there. Like, we were not involved at all. So 1,000 people in local is actually a pretty big deal. It was Pravi Block and Russ, which like Stain Wagon guys, versus Pandemic Legion and NC Dot. Like I said, 1,000 people in local.
I missed this. I'm actually taking a look at it for the first time right now because this happened today, basically when I was still in bed, and now I'm watching watching, the EVE Battle Report fixer make my browser choke to death, right? Wow, that's some pretty good carnage right there. That's a good, looks like a 55 billion ISK fight. What's the story here, Les?
So I was actually talking to Elise right before the show started to kind of get the story. And what's going on is Pandemic Legion and NC Data have been reinforcing D-G Station, and they're just poking it to create fights. And Pravi and Stainwagon or Russ, they keep forming up to actually brawl them over the station. So it's kind of like PL whenever they kept reinforcing head GP versus Brave. Like they're just going in and just farming the fights over and over again. And what's actually kind of scary is Pandemic Legion had like 300 Tech 3 cruisers. Or like the combined fleet of like 300 Tech 3 cruisers.
Oh, in PL and NC Dot, I mean, you have 200 people from PL in a fleet, 154 NC participating, and then another 100 from Horde, mostly Horde, and 20-something from Northern Army. So that's a pretty big, very serious group. You've got most of the usual suspects in the field here. I see Fufa. Well, do you know if Fufa was the FC for NC Dot?
I don't know. I think Ron Mexico was FCing PL. Okay. I'm not sure who was FCing NC
So there
Dot.
was an adult in the room.
Yeah,
okay.
I love Ron.
I'm still bitter that Ron didn't actually turn up to this year's Vegas to party with us.
Lives in Vegas, doesn't come to E-Vegas.
I know.
Feels bad, man.
We felt spurned. It's a shame. We're going to actually, somebody's asking about the 24 Chimera multi-boxing person that lost all the carriers. We're going to be getting to that in a moment, actually. It's nice that we actually, during the Nullsec Power Hour, have enough to talk about. Like, there's actual fights and things. Now, when we were in Proby, we had sort of a similar experience where when people sort of poke Proby with a stick to get fights, a lot of times you do summon a whole bunch of Russians. And so when the Imperium our first invasion post-Vazisov, went over to Pravi to test everything, half the time we were fighting Pravi, and half the time we were fighting the Russ, who sort of come boiling out of Stain and Catch and engaging in that. So we're still seeing the primary meta. I mean, it looks like the Russians were primarily using a Typhoon fleet, but really everything has gone all the way to these T3 fleets still. I mean, again, like NC Dot and PL are using a pretty standard issue Legion Proteus combo. Let me see if these Typhoons have anything interesting on them. I mean, I'm guessing they're cruise foons, but you never know.
Yeah, they're cruise foons, and I believe they're all using tracking disruptors, EWAR. And a lot of, if you go and look at some of the fight comments and on the Reddit thread, is people are criticizing them for using tracking disruptors instead of using like sensor tamps or something to affect the logi. And it really depends with the Proteuses, because they have really low lock range. But from what I've been told, the Proteuses and Legions were on top of the Typhoons at all times, anyways. So
the Typhoons got massacred badly. Yeah. So yeah.
So the between the bombers and the Proteuses at 0, they had a lot of trouble actually doing any damage to the Proteuses, because they're already using cruise missiles, which don't really apply that well to a strategic cruiser sized ship unless they're running MWDs or have lots of target painters on them. So
it's unusual. I mean, it's really just fundamentally unusual in this day and age to see like a full blown battleship doctrine that doesn't use undersized guns. I mean, we use Mace Fleet in the Imperium now, which is a rattlesnake doctrine, but that's not really shooting cruise missiles, though it could. That uses sentry drones, right, which are everybody's favorite battleship weapon, which works just fine against T3s. Zeke Lord is busy like crapping itself, so I can't really get too much data here on their Typhoon. Oh, finally, where the Typhoon's loaded. Yep, so standard issue cruise Typhoon, armor tank, and ECM. I don't know why you would be using that. Okay, well, whatever.
Well, and a quick shout out to Urandus, guys. $5. Notice me senpai. # Urandus for CSM.
Urandus for CSM. Well, you've been noticed. Congratulations. And thank you for the donation and support. So let's go ahead and get into Gara Sniper, infamous Imperium multi-boxer, used to be in Bad Country and then didn't stick around along with several other people from that organization. Didn't stick around with the Corp. Moved over to Dodco, which is a Korean corporation in Goonswarm. And Gara Sniper is famous for multi-boxing with 24 Chimeras simultaneously. And in this case, he lost all 24. The funny thing is, I think this is actually the first time that happened. I don't think I've seen him get wiped out before. Apparently, and this is sort of the stereotype, is they've already been replaced. But it was basically a Titan's worth of dead carriers. I'm going to link these in chat here so people can take a look at it.
I mean, we haven't seen like a carrier whelp like this probably since Suez. I think Suez was the one that always were losing like 10 to 12 carriers at a time. It's been a while since we've seen a massacre like this. But one of the big things about these Chimeras is you're averaging about a 90 to 100 mil per carrier if he's using them all for ratting anomalies. So I mean, 24. That's what 2.4 bill an hour. He makes ISK pretty quickly.
Yeah, he's basically a massive tax center, which is interesting because apparently there's some kerfluffle on Reddit amongst people who are usually making kerfluffles about the idea of people having taxes, which is pretty standard issue in blocks, right? Like you don't really think about that being a controversy, which is actually a segue later into our discussion about CSMs, is that there are certain things that people in Nullsec take for granted, like you have to have taxes in order to fund SRP. Right, like if you want to get free ships for people so that they can fight for free, you have a tax system, and apparently that was supposed to be a big controversy. That at least in Goonswarm, we're introducing member corp taxes for the first time because Moongoo, the value of it is decreasing. What's interesting, and this is something that I think that everybody has some value to pay attention to, the price of Goo, which is the main source of income for alliances in general, besides ratting taxes. The price of Moongoo is linked to demand on the market for ships and things, for T2 things that the Goo creates, right?
Right.
So what happens is, in a situation where EVE is plateauing or the amount of active players is declining or when there is less war, war actually fuels the ISK value of these moons. And so one of the reasons why you're seeing people beginning to implement additional taxes or move away from relying entirely or being able to rely entirely on Moongoo, just like it was in the Technetium era, is a reflection of less use, right? So when there's more people building things and there's more players, Moongoo becomes more value. When there's less players, Moongoo has less value. So it's kind of an economic indicator for the health of the overall GDP. And I just sounded like an actual real-world economist there saying that. That's rather disturbing. Because let's not forget, we're talking about internet spaceships.
Right.
And continuing to talk about internet spaceships, let's move on briefly to CCP Please. And in about 9 minutes, we're going to be bringing Carneros on board.
And one more quick note on the topic of the carriers. Apparently, Gara, the guy who lost the 24 carriers, for his Secret Santa, he gave his Santee a super and a super cap pilot. If you're able to carry a rat simultaneously in 24 chimeras, like you have more ISK than you know what to do with. And he also put 100 billion ISK bounty on himself.
That's good.
Wow, he has no money issues here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about. Let's move on and talk about. I'm going to check my notes. Let's go to CCP Please, and we have several things that we want to talk about with.
Well, where do you want to start off with? I know I've got a couple of things here. You have anything in particular you want to kick off with first?
Well, let's go to the biggest news for everybody, right? Because the CSM is sort of, it's an interesting thing. We're about to be getting into the political silly season, and I love politics, and if you're watching the Meta Show, you probably also love politics, or you just actually want to hear about spaceships blowing up. That's fine, too. But before we get to the CSM stuff, I think the biggest news, of course, is sort of related to EVE, is the Oculus Rift pre-orders were announced with the price point of $599. And why is this relevant to us, for those of you who haven't been paying attention? EVE Valkyrie is bundled with this. Now, EVE Valkyrie is, if it is positioned appropriately, potentially and this is the hope, right? This is what all EVE players should want, right? This is important, is the best case scenario for CCP and for EVE Online is for EVE Valkyrie to become the Super Mario Brothers of the VR revolution, if there is a VR revolution, right? This is what we want. Why do we want this? We want this because if it becomes bundled with all of the major VR platforms, and the VR platforms which take off, i.e. hoping for VHS and not Betamax here, have Valkyrie in it, it will introduce the first introduction to VR, which is sort of a religious experience if you've never done it before. The first introduction to VR will be through the lens of New Eden, right? Which means there'll be a vast increase in interest in EVE, in the lore and the backstory. It's not like everybody who plays EVE Valkyrie is suddenly going to turn around and play EVE, but I think that there will be there's a huge opportunity for a substantial number of people who play Valkyrie on VR for the first time to come to EVE and sort of add a lot of health to New Eden. So it's concerning when we see the price point for the Oculus Rift being so high. There was a big controversy, and actually I'm kind of curious to see in chat here if you can give us some feedback here and let us know who is actually going to be purchasing one of these things, or if you have already purchased or pre-ordered an Oculus Rift. I want to hear who's done it or not. So the challenge is Paul Merlucky is the CEO of Oculus Rift, and he screwed up the messaging of what the price is going to be. People were expecting it to be about like what the DK2 cost, which was $350. And we know that he screwed up the pricing. He said it himself. That's not me throwing shade. He went and did a Reddit AMA and basically mea culpa'd about, all of that being as expensive as it was, or at least the perceptions of that.
So he didn't screw up the pricing. He
said that he screwed up the messaging regarding the pricing, basically, because in the communications beforehand, so there was sticker shock, right? It was the same reaction that people had with the Xbox One when it was a full $100 more pricey than the PS4, and people were just not expecting that. So the initial discourse around the reveal was not, oh my God, the Oculus is so cool. It's holy crap, they want $600 for this. So, I mean, I hope it does well. I don't know. Are you going to get a Rift? What do you think?
I'll eventually get one. I mean, it's like the technology will be really interesting. A lot of people in chat are actually talking about like the Vive, the HTC Vive will be better. Like it really depends on what the price is going to be like once, because right now Oculus Rift is the only thing on the market right now, so they can pretty much name their price. So once more of these VR headsets are being released, then they're going to have to compete. So you probably see the price settle around $400, I think.
Now, one of the things that is interesting about CCP's positioning from a business perspective, and business is fascinating, especially once you get to large alliance politics, because they sort of look the same, is CCP has made this game called Gunjack, which is, I believe, out for the Gear VR, and is one of the first and most well-reviewed and well-regarded titles. So Polygon and a lot of other people have said great things about Gunjack and what it looks like and what it means for VR. And so what you see here is actually, and I love this, is the beginning of an actual coherent business strategy from CCP. And I don't think that I've said those words in a while, where they have one of the first VR platforms is this intro $100 Gear VR thing, and Gunjack. So again, one of your first introductions to VR on that platform is Gunjack and the World of New Eden, and the titles that Valkyrie comes out for. So the Rift, and I believe that there's a Sony version for the PlayStation that's going to have Valkyrie on it as well. I'm not sure on that, but the hope is that no matter where people touch VR first, New Eden will be there firstest with the mostest. Right. So the real question is there going to be something for the HTC Vive, or however you say it, Vive? What the hell?
It's Vive, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, because they're supposed to be revealing, doing a big reveal there at CES, which was just the last few days, and I missed what that big reveal was. I don't know if anybody in chat got it, but VR is really interesting, and this is an opportunity for, ideally speaking, the major moves that if I was abruptly in charge and somebody gave me the CEO hat, and obviously I'm not the CEO, but continue with a strategy of making sure that you have some sort of New Eden type thing on every VR platform, so you're not invested in any given one with an exclusivity agreement. That would be bad. The Dust 514 thing proved that. Get Dust on PC. Right, and then that way you end up, and then possibly for something like Dust or even Eve, bolt on VR support once you figure out which ones work the best, right? And then that way, again, you're sort of in this new area. The hope, of course, is that we don't even know. I mean, Laz, do you what's your opinion? And I actually don't know this. This isn't a seated question. What's your view on the VR future? Do you think it's going to be a big thing, or do you think it's going to be just a fancy joystick that sits in the corner?
It really depends, because it's such a niche thing, and I'm a huge competitive gamer. So when a lot of people look at games like Valkyrie and they see the PvP and stuff inside the game, people are trying to look at the esports or the competitive gaming nature of it. So I know CCP. I've talked to a few different people at CCP, and they want to see some sort of ESL or some sort of competitive gaming community pick it up, but unless that happens, I don't think it's going to be giant, at least for another few years.
Well, I mean, the thing about it is that the Nexus, the reason why we have this technology in the first place is because the ubiquity of the smartphones, right? I mean, the earliest of these VR things is literally, a smartphone duct taped to your head.
Right.
You've got Google Cardboard as well as an option. And so if phones continue to develop with ever more, like, what was they call? Apple calls them like the Retina screens. The price point should come down. I mean, $600. I mean, the original iPhone came out at a relatively high price point too, and I think that. Well, I'm hoping for the best.
Yeah. Well, why don't you start talk about CSM a little bit, and guys, go and type in chat so we can do our giveaways, and then we're rolling into Rick Reynolds, it's Carneros in a little bit.
Yes, we are good friends with Carneros in the real world, and as a result, we have a nasty habit of saying his real name, which isn't a huge secret, but all the same, we should try to use space talk. So CSM stuff, very briefly, I sort of went off on the VR tangent because I got really interested because I hadn't actually realized about the diversification strategy that CCP was implementing, and I was like, wow, that's actually really smart. So good on them. The CSM stuff. We're getting to the CSM silly season again, and very few people from this upcoming CSM are running for election again. Pretty much the entirety of CSM 10, with the exception of Sion and Steve Royonkin, however the hell you say his name, are not running for re-election. So it's pretty much just clearing out this entire crew of people, and you've got a new slate. Confidence in the CSM with the creation of the focus groups and the leaks has sort of been at a low ebb. And what's interesting about that politically is whenever there is lower voter turnout overall, the most organized groups win, right? This is how, usually in the United States, Republicans tend to do better in midterm elections because they tend to be more organized and committed, blah, blah, blah. So when people are not showing up to the polls for CSM, in general, as turnout declines, you expect the influence of blocks to increase, right? So if people are going, oh, why bother with a CSM this go round, you're going to see more block candidates because the people in the blocks are better at organizing and motivating their troops in general. So for the Imperium this time around, we're initially looking, and I haven't really discussed this around too much, but Sion wants to run again. Aerith, who is the head of Goonstorm's finance team, is looking at running and being our subject matter expert. And we also know that Zenuria wants to run, and we may put him on the ballot for real this time. In fact, we are going to do that. Zenuria actually almost won on his own merits running last time. He was edges from the top. And people think it's kind of a joke candidate or a protest candidate, but his knowledge of the game is actually frighteningly accurate all the way around. Laz, you want to do some giveaways?
Yep, so we're going to roll the giveaways, but first, shout out to Wild, $10. Vote Wild CSM. Wild as CSM will literally buy you a JPEG of a HGC Hive and send it to you.
He will literally do that.
He'll literally.
So vote Wild. I have no idea who Wild is. Actually,
Dark Wild in chat.
Okay. Dark Wild had hit me up a while back saying, like, somebody told me that he needed to check with me about running for CSM or else he'd get in trouble. And I'm like, dude, like, if you want to run for CSM, I don't care. Like, it's fine. Like, you might not be necessarily on the block vote roster, but, like, you're not going to get in trouble running for CSM. It's a free country. Ish. It's sort of a free country.
Then, quick, Borox had 12 months resub, guys. Make sure you get some beer licks for that 4-year support, man. Thank you so much.
An entire year. That's excellent.
Yes.
Thanks, man.
And then Trump, Mr. Trump, another 5. Don't show up to vote, so hashtag Trump mobs can make me president.
Trump mobs. That's excellent. Okay, well, we're
giveaways.
Giveaways. We're going to do giveaways, and then we're going to bring Carneros in here, and we can talk about all sorts of things also. I don't know if people are interested in, more block candidates because 9 out of 12 wasn't enough, says Aspen. I don't think we actually had 12. I guess we did have 12 block, 9 of the candidates.
Well, I mean, after what's his name again?
Manny.
Well, no, the guy, wormhole guy. I can't remember his name now. Corbex. Thank you.
Corbex was not technically a block candidate. Like he's not really like a Goonstorm spy or anything like that. That was just sort of a hilarious thing at FanFest where he abruptly joined Goonstorm. He's not really like part of the conspiracy. Of course, me now denying that and saying that Corbex is not part of the conspiracy,
which he actually is,
is just going to set off a tizzy in the tinfoil crowd about that. So we're going to bring Carneros on here as soon as we get done with the giveaways.
So the first winner is going to be Chad W1701, man. Congratulations. Make sure you message the channel and let us know which frig you want. You have to actually specify which of the pirate rookie ship frigs you want so we can send it to you. And I also need your in-game character name.
Okay.
Congrats, Chad. Next is going to be Shoulderinge. Nailed it. SHLDRINJ 1. And the third is going to be Bryn1337, also a sub here. Thanks so much for the support, buddy.
All rigged all the time. That is how we roll. Okay, so speaking of how we roll, let's go ahead and make Laz do a bunch of work to bring Carneros on board. And we'll see whether we end up with sort of another Inception-style situation where there's an infinite file of video of Laz or me or of Carneros. It'll be good.
It's all good. Everything's all set. Rick is up on screen now. Yet. Oh, I did it again!
Oh, wow.
I'm done.
That's excellent.
Shut up and take my money.
Well,
Damn good to see you guys.
I mean,
what happened?
You look fantastic. I mean, I don't see what Laz is so angry about. Is like I didn't actually see like the Inception screen, and he like got furiously angry and ran off. Like Rick is toasting everybody. I don't know what made you so angry there, Laz. Like it looked fine.
Oh no, I used his real name again.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't even notice.
It's just natural.
I didn't notice either.
Well, I want to start things off and welcome Carneros to the show, and also let him know that I am desperately envious of his kitchen, which looks fantastic, and you're looking very.
I'm spoiled. I get to play in my kitchen, so I'm right next to my refrigerator. Do you know how convenient it is to have your refrigerator next to your wine cooler? You know, everything a man needs to play this game. It's right here.
What is really impressive to me is if you were playing Eve in your kitchen, that you look so fit. Because if I played Eve in my kitchen, I would not fit into any of my. Oh, come on!
When you get to your 50s, your waistline goes down as a matter of importance.
Well, that's I think I've met a lot of Eve players over the years, and you're complaining about your waistline and showing it off like that. I think that
could be worse.
You're going to hurt a lot of feelings today.
If you're not an American, that looks fat, but for an American, that's actually pretty good. Anyway,
an American, that's normal. Well, in Wisconsin, actually, we were introduced when we moved to Wisconsin. My wife and I were introduced to a concept called Wisconsin skinny. So you're not having to say like as long as you're within a relative boundary, like you're Wisconsin skinny. So it's all good. Okay, so people are asking to have you show off your abs, but before we turn this to an involuntary striptease of Imperium autocrats stripping on live TV, that'd be like
because
a boundary, like you're Wisconsin skinny.
Laz explained to me the rules just before we went on, and that was no, you can use an F-bomb, but don't say anything racist. And he said, don't take your clothes off. What else was there? There were a couple things, but
that's about it.
That was about it. So I have to follow the rules.
That's true, you do. Otherwise, Laz will be disappointed. But, okay. So let's go ahead. Also, speaking of Wisconsin, we have a Wisconsin buddy here who's turning up in chat, and I wanted to remind people who, if you are in Wisconsin or Chicago or Milwaukee or Minnesota and feel like the commute, on the 21st of January, we are having our Madison local Eve meet, Madison monthly Eve meet with Mittens, and that, I warn you, if you turn out to it, come prepared, because the party starts at 7 and it's nominally an Eve meet at the Atomic Koi in Fitchburg. You can find this information in the Out of Game Gathering forum on Evo, but it's pretty much it's a lot of Imperium people, and we kind of roll hard, so it tends to go until 3 or 4 in the morning after starting at 7.
Holy cow! Okay, the next one in our area, San Diego Eve Players Meetup, is January 21st, and it will probably run from about 6 p.m. till about 10 p.m., and we will not roll hard until the crack of dawn.
I've gone, so they're both on the same day, every third Thursday, and the San Diego meet is a fantastic pile of fun. You go to Kaminsky Barbecue, and Kaminsky's Barbecue, and you get to, in Poway, I believe, and you get to enjoy delicious barbecue, and it's much more of a civilized place where friends drink beer and talk about Eve and have fun, as opposed to a nightmarish Mittens run bender through at least 2 clubs, 3 bars, and
holy crap,
dude! I mean,
that sounds like Vegas.
It is. Well, I only have one speed when it comes to partying, as you know. So,
do me a favor, put an X in chat if you have gone on a drinking binge with the Mittani before, like in Vegas, Reykjavik, or one of these other fancy places. Put an X in chat.
Oh my! I don't know how many of our people who actually watch. There's a slight delay here, so somebody is saying
like
Burrito Drive is the shit. So somebody has actually like gone there. Yeah, we tend to end in either Burrito Drive or Paul's Pelmini, depending upon things. Wow. Okay, so I have. There's actually a lot of.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a thing. I don't really turn off until I run out. Well, actually, we partied.
True story. The last time I went on a drinking binge in Vegas with TheMittani, I didn't realize this, but I had a broken foot at the time, and it hurt like hell, and I didn't know why. And I just put on fancy dress shoes as tight as I could, shoved my foot in it, and prayed it would hold together, and just hobbled along behind the group. And I'm trying to keep up with them, and they are fast moving, and they don't slow down for the old guy with the broken foot. No, it was
I feel
so
guilty.
funny.
We're heartless.
I feel.
I just drank a couple extras and went with that.
You can ride on my back next time.
It's always absolutely. We can have somebody carry you as like sort of like Jedi training, right? Like you can teach them the ways
chair.
of being.
I like
exactly. We'll just hoist Rick up. Carneros up, and away we go. But yeah, no. Somebody's saying, are renters allowed at Imperium drinking parties? Well, they're not actually. So like these meets are public, right? Like anybody can come. The problem with the thing at the Atomic Koi, like the Madison Monthly Eve meet, is there's a couple of people who are not in the Imperium, but initially speaking, there was a lot of people who started out not in the Imperium, and then we have either according to Reddit, I will make eye contact with you, and then you will be either stunned by the sociopathy or there's mind control lasers, and then it just sort of turned into it sort of escalated after a while because everybody ended up bonding and then ended up being part of the same space tribe, and there you go. But yeah, these things are a lot of fun. Everybody's welcome. It's a public event. It's just you don't have to go until 4 a.m. and follow in the train of devastation in Madison, but it's a good experience. You can always just have a few drinks and leave after.
Likewise, the San Diego meets, they're not. It doesn't matter if you're in Imperium or not. In fact, there's some dire enemies. I'm going to embarrass one of them right now. Shout out to my good friend James S. from Evolution in NC Dot, who would be embarrassed to have me mention his name on air, but who comes out sometimes to the San Diego events, and it's great fun to hang with him. Even though in game we will shoot each other right away, but we like each other.
That is the fun thing about all these meets in general. So we should actually talk about Laz. What were you about to say? Sorry,
I was going to say, like, speaking of in-game, we
should actually talk about things besides partying. I hear that EVE Online is not. I hear that EVE Online is not about hanging out with your friends and going on wild parties and seeing the world, and that it's actually about a spaceship game. But
while that is sort of true, because I know a lot of people who
so much of the politics actually happens at these events, though, and that's the thing that people don't really realize is that you can't actually understand what's happening in the metagame unless you attend FanFest and EVE Vegas and you see who the leaders of these various organizations are involved with and talking to. I mean, so right now, as a consequence, to tie this to the Madison EVE meet, Goonswarm is now in diplomatic contact with a certain Nullsec entity, which we weren't really talking to before because one of their people turns up to this thing and we have gone on benders together. And so we trust each other and we're like, hey, your leadership and we should probably talk and see if we can cut some deals because, if we try to betray you or mess you up in some way, you can literally just punch me in the face next month. And so, a lot of EVE politics does come around from these things. And I think that people who rail against socials, like that's the Gevlin Goblin thing is how dare you be social, which is interesting. Actually, I just want to point this out. Why is a guy who writes a blog and communicates with people through comments a lot railing against being social? Because blogging is kind of inherently a social activity because you're communicating with people.
The internet.
Internet.
The internet.
Internet.
So, Carneros, leader of the Bastion.
Yes, sir.
What's the Bastion up to, man? What's the Bastion up to?
Okay. At the moment, we are based in Vale of the Silent. Mm-hmm. It's not the most exciting part of the map right now, but it's not the most boring part either. It's sort of on the border of stuff, and things mix in different places. Depending on what time of day it is, you're either getting Russian intervention, or you're getting Nullsec visitors, or you're getting wormholes at any time of day, and or we're making our own trouble. Sometimes we all jump in ships and we go through a couple wormholes, pop up somewhere surprising, fly around like crazy people shooting things and saying stupid stuff in local. And then we get to a certain point where someone gets wife aggro or whatever, and we all pile back into our hole and go home. I actually think that's pretty fun as long as you bring a relatively fast-moving ship. And then, you just zip around, and it's kind of like exploration for PvP players.
Yeah, we've had that experience too. I mean, I think in general, the real, like, one of the hidden benefits of Phoebe, right? And I mean, there's still serious criticisms to be made about the jump fatigue in general, the light year limitation, and all this. People will do what they want to do, and they will simply go through the extra amount of effort to do that. So if certain developers are attempting to nerf power projection by being overly harsh with jump fatigue, what you've now seen is that as a weird byproduct, that now Nullsec has overwhelmingly learned its way around, not to the level of the actual WSpace residents, but now for the first time in history since Phoebe, Nullsec players are regularly using wormholes to get around, engaging in wormhole play in the Imperium as a whole, and within Goonswarm, Whole Squad, which is down with that real shit. They have completely taken off, and it's fantastic. You're right, it is like exploration for PvP. Like, you're in the hole, you're scouting, you're looking around, you're practicing your probing skills, you're finding people to gank. There's no local. It's like this weird world, and we would have never been introduced to it if it wasn't for the horrible crap that came with Phoebe. But we're still projecting power to the other side of the galaxy. Caps are getting ganked in people's home system. So the whole avoid power projection thing never really was a success if you're ramming 600 people through a wormhole. But it's been a lot of fun. I actually have really enjoyed getting into WSpace, and I think that that's been sort of a perk for everyone. I don't really know how in chat, actually, if we have any like dedicated wormholers, I am curious to see what the wormholer perspective is. And with that aside, let us know what you think. If you're a WSpace person, like, do you like having more nullsuckers because you can kill them, or do you not like having the attention? Let us know. And beyond that, Rick, I kind of wanted to ask you.
Go for it.
What is it like, just from an autocrat's perspective? An autocrat is what we call within the Imperium leaders of every alliance in the Imperium. I'm an autocrat. Carneros is an autocrat. That's just sort of our little lingo alliance leader. What's a day in the life of an autocrat like?
Well, it's a little bit like having two jobs. So I have a day job. I'm not independently wealthy at this point, although we have a big lottery tonight and could win $800 million or something.
That would be awesome.
900 now.
Good,
900 now,
good luck. If
is it? Holy crap!
Off, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, but so during the day, I'll get up in the morning, crack of dawn. I usually get to office by 6 a.m. my time. 6:30 a.m. my time. I get to work. Yes. Wow. And I got two monitors at work, and one of them is about half the Bastion stuff. So I've got Jabber channels open. First thing in the morning is I check all my European guys to see what's going on. Are there any questions? Are there any problems? Did we lose any Titans last night? If so, was it mine? Okay, good. All right, and we'll go through the list. And I've lost enough Titans I can joke about it. But and I'll go see what's going on. And once it's stable, I turn and check my work email, and I go through all my work email and figure what's going on there, and do all the basic medium stuff. And I'll work until about noon. And lunchtime for me happens to be European prime. People have gotten off work, had dinner, and some nice fleets will go up. And I will typically just grab something to eat, bring it to my desk at work at another game company, and then I will and I'll log into Eve, and I'll go on a fleet op. Every autocrat deals with the work and the pressure of Eve differently. In order to enjoy the game, I like to go on PvP fleets. I go on fleets every day, which is unusual for an alliance leader, I think. I usually try to go at least one at lunch and one or two in the evenings, actually, and run around and do stuff. Could be anything. I have a lot of characters and a lot of accounts, and I have guys stuck all over the place. When I started playing, I felt like I was way behind the power curve. People had 100 million skill points. How would I ever catch up? That's impossible. But if I start multiple accounts and train each of them in a different direction, I can get to the point where on some account somewhere where I could do whatever the FC asked for.
Right.
So that was my objective. It turns out that you can catch up. So I was wrong. You can, after, a few years went by, I suddenly had 100 million skill points on multiple different accounts, and I could fly most of the things that FC would ask for on most of my accounts. So that part and just the problem disappeared.
Training gets weird after a certain point, like when you get to a point when your characters get so many skill points, because it's no longer like, so with my characters that have like 70 million plus skill points on them, and I've got one that's like at 120 now, is you're just kind of like, what haven't I trained? Okay, well, I guess I'll train for another capital, because like you get to the point where you're already all fives, especially if you've got a pure PvP focus, right? You already have fives in all the major things, right? And you don't really go for the access specialist training, except for I did actually have a character which was so focused on sabers that I, even for the specialist skills for like small autocannons, I had up to 5, which was the most ridiculous little extra 2% DPS boost that I've ever gotten. But it is kind of funny like that.
One of the minor disappointments of the current way the game is going is they're asking you to play each account more as part of how the gameplay goes. That makes it harder and harder to multi-box. I can still do it with like a couple of characters at the same time, but if we had a dread op, I know I've trained up 6 characters on 6 different accounts to fly a dread now, and it's fun to just undock them all and put them all in a fleet and feel temporarily weirdly powerful. But that's not that practical anymore. You can't. We're not very often trying to burn down a lot of hit points on one item anymore, and B, if you're going to really fly them in combat, you can't do that manually with 6. That's just stupid.
No, this actually sort of brings up an interesting point. Is looking at the amount of players involved in EVE Online and thinking from business perspectives in general about making sure that EVE and CCP are doing well. I wonder if it might be wise to revisit the IS Boxer nerf. Right, like the ban on using IS Boxer, and the reason I say that is,
you have to clarify, because they didn't ban the use of IS Boxer, just the key broadcasting.
Using, right, exactly. Well, the reason why I bring this up is the biggest challenge with that actually had nothing to do with IS Boxer itself or key broadcasting being a problem. The biggest challenge was that bombers were made in a way that you could just run an entire team of bombers with one person, and that was overpowered because you had an overpowered ship, right? So, if they had changed things in such a way that like bombers would decloak each other, right? If you made it such that bombers actually got that nerf that they were going to be getting a million years ago, it might be wise for CCP to reconsider that, because if you have a situation where
the first world problem. I mean, the fact that you got a bunch of high level guys at the top of the game who are running low on things to power train for or whatever, it's not a big deal. It's actually more important though to try to come up with reasons to keep them subscribed.
Right, exactly.
Because we want the company to be financially successful. I want to have exciting things to spend my money on. And
please let me run my own personal dread fleet. Please give me a reason to run. Because a lot of us train for that, actually. Like before the bomber thing got it sort of ruined, a lot of us would end up, like the only way, dreads are simple enough and they're high value enough that you could have a situation where people would be like, I have 6 dreadnoughts out, and this is awesome. Like, you press a button, you're in siege. So once you get them set up and in place, if the fleet is run appropriately, you can IS box that. You can still do it without key broadcasting, but it's sort of an interesting thing to deal with the bomber problem. You had a knock-on effect of making it less of a reason for players to, keep those dreadnoughts subscribed. I mean, we had a mass resubbing of dreads once the Imperium went to Cloud Ring, because I was like, we're going to be blowing up lots of towers in Nullsec and in Cloud Ring, and we're actually going to need to use these things for the first time in forever. And so that got a lot brought out of mothballs, which was good. I mean, it's structure shooting is awesome.
Well, the key broadcasting didn't even end the use of bombers that way. Kumi can still bomb just the same way as before, and just a little bit extra work now. Like,
the people who are really dedicated to doing that in general still do it. I actually, maybe the reason why they did it was because of the impact on the market with like the tritanium because of mass miners. But I think miners are still, I don't know. It's a complicated thing. We should go back to talking about the Bastion though after that aside has been put there. So how many accounts do you end up actually having, Carneros? Do you not want to answer
around
that?
17 or so, something like that.
Wow.
You could look at count anytime. All the API keys are in the system.
Well, I can, yes, but I mean, not everybody here on the show has the ability to go, look up and take a look. How do you handle sort of work-life balance, as it were? Not even like work-life; it's like work-life and leadership.
Work balances. Yeah, I know what you mean. No, I just try to keep a light attitude. Try not to let anything bother you. I tell myself, I don't care if someone loses a jump freighter to a war deck in JITA with 15 BPOs in the cargo hold, whatever. Just let it go. Don't let it bother me. You can roll your eyes if you want. Just keep going. Have a glass of wine. Keep a chill attitude.
That's a good answer to many things. Is either have a glass of wine or have some scotch, right? Like this is bothersome. Either do I have wine, do I have scotch, do I have chocolate, depending upon what your entertainment of choice is.
I'm really surprised he said glass and not bottle.
Well, you have the glass because
I actually
the taste of the wine.
I rarely drink more than 2 in a night, to be honest.
Bottles?
2 glasses. So I'm not. I don't drink a lot. I just try to make sure it's good quality. But you guys are making me sound like a lush. Can I just say hi to the guys in chat for a second?
Yeah, please, absolutely.
Zeltheric and Jan, hi Jan, and Variable and all these guys. Borox, holy crap! All these guys. Hi guys.
Wait, you do see that someone went and created a new Twitch account called Carneros.
Carneros noticed me.
I'm not going to say anything about that because it's kind of a face palm, but whatever. Nice to see you.
That's awesome.
If you don't know who this Carneros guy is, but you were in Eve University, you might have known me when I was a student there, called Stag's Leap. I just thought I'd say that.
One of the 17 accounts. So what is it? I mean, we're getting towards the last 5 minutes, but we want some more information, I think. What do you think is sort of a very softball question, but what are the good things and the bad things in your experience of leading in Eve? The good and the bad of leadership in Eve.
Well, you definitely need, if you're going to have a group, and you're going to let it become as big as they sometimes do. We're somewhere around 3,300, 3,400 pilots at the moment, which is a fair amount of work. The rule is delegate as much as you can to each of the groups. Then don't micromanage that group. Let finance own the finance stuff. Let logistics do logistics any way they want to, as long as they're not skimming moon minerals or whatever and building themselves titans, whatever. Just, let them. You wouldn't know about preventing skimming in Goonswarm. Just teasing. But we run a very conservative little ship in the Bastion in terms of finances. Nobody gets paid. Other than SRP, nobody gets paid out of anything. No one gets a Plex for anything. No one does that. The Alliance leadership, including myself, we do not pull money out when we want to buy something. No. My Titans I paid for out of my own pocket, that kind of stuff. So we do everything like that. But you have to let each group, as long as you trust them, just run as they go. If someone comes to me and says, wait, FC or CEO, can you fix this for me? I go, no, go talk to that group. If you can't talk to them and explain how it is or get them to explain it to you, I'll come in and help smooth stuff over. But it can be, you have to let them run their sections, or else you're going to go crazy. You're still going to get a certain amount of people who call you, who pull you aside and say, should I run for CSM 11? Should I buy a Titan? Or should I? What they ask you different questions, and they ask you for advice, and you know, you have to spend some time with them, each one, and make them understand they're important to the alliance and important to you, and you know, meet their emotional needs at the same time you're giving them advice.
What do you find to be the most fulfilling part of being an alliance leader? What's the good stuff for you?
You see people start out, and then you see them achieve things later. I'm going to pull one out of a fleet today I saw someone with a character that I remember when he made this character. I literally remember the day he created it. And today he was fleet boosting for our fleet. Don't let this go to your head, Furby. But I saw him
That's excellent.
fleet boosting for the fleet, and I thought, now see, he accomplished something with that character, and that is cool. That was a nice moment.
Yeah, I actually find that very enjoyable as well. Like, we call it sort of, you know, watching people uplift themselves in Goonswarm. Somebody who, like, you know, a lot of times you'll see it, somebody advancing, they want to learn how to FC, then they become an FC, and the next thing you know, they're actually running things. Or people who had never really gotten out of the house too much, and they come to their first Eve meet, and then they start hanging out with people, and they become far more social, and next thing you know, they're going on benders and things like that. That is probably one of the, you know, doing right by your guys is, I think.
I don't know if that's good to advertise. You come out to an E-meet, we turn you into an alcoholic.
Well, I didn't say turn you into an alcoholic.
Well, no, you come to E-meet, then you start going on benders.
Just because you go on a bender doesn't mean it's an alcoholic bender. You could be having a lot of very chaste, very reasonable fun.
You can't even see on this straight face.
Someone write that down.
Okay.
Guys, so we're actually coming down to the end of the show. We get about 60 seconds left. Son of a...
Carneros.
Thank you so much for coming on this
One more thing. CCP in the house. I know there's always some CCP in the house. You guys are great. I used to be one of you. Love you guys. Next year for the holidays, I have a cool idea which I stole shamelessly out of the fleet again today. And that is analogous to the cool snowball launchers and fireworks launchers and stuff that we've got on for the ships. How about next Christmas for Frostline events or something like that? What if you put some in that are designed to fit on citadels and are just for fun and goofy and shoot off stuff, and would be a lot of fun if someone flies up to a citadel and maybe isn't expecting it. Yeah, it doesn't add any power. It's just for fun and fluff, and maybe it's just at Christmas time. But it could be a lot of fun, and would help simultaneously sell citadels.
I think having firework explosions from citadels would be hilarious. I think that's awesome. Well, great idea.
Everyone loves the fireworks.
And speaking of great ideas, after this, we're going to be having the boat show. We're going to be rolling to the boat show. The boat show. The boat show. So I think it's about time for us to have Laz play us off.
Yep, we're going to be going off in about 30 seconds. I need to give a quick shout out. So we have a Carnerosaurus with $5. Oh no, going to eat Tokyo. Go Carnerosaurus.
That's awesome.
And then then $10 from Sergeant Davis. Thank you so much for the donations, guys. Shout out Blue Microphones for us help support the stream here, and also CCP for giving us these awesome Pirate Rookie ships to give away. So, guys, coming up now, the boat show. Make sure you stay tuned. And thanks again to Carneros for joining us today.
My pleasure.
See you later, boys and girls.